Hello everyone, and welcome to Catchy Cartoons Easter Special. And today we'll be learning to draw, you guessed it, the Easter Bunny and her little friend, a sweet Easter egger chick. So let's hop to it. We'll start our rough drawing by sketching a circular shape for her head. Add a center line and an eye line to place the facial features, taking into account the roundness of the head by curving the lines across it. Take note as well that since she's going to be peering out from behind that big egg she's carrying, I've set these lines at an angle, creating more of an X shape rather than an up and down cross. Let's place the eyes on the eye line and the nose just below on the center line. We'll give her a wide-eyed expression as we place the brows fairly high relative to the eyes. By placing a crooked smile on the screen right side of her face, we're suggesting the effort required by the bunny to carry this giant egg. Sketch in the teeth and, of course, 2 long bunny ears. We'll finish the face for now by indicating her markings. Now, as we want the egg she's carrying to feel heavy because of that little chick hiding inside, we're going to lean her body backwards, stretching her front leg out as she moves into her next step. By doing this, we'll be placing the weight of the egg over her back foot. We'll sketch in her body, arching her back slightly as it strains. We'll make the egg even heavier looking by giving the back leg a deep knee bend, as this leg is taking on all the weight of the egg and she needs to keep her balance. I'll be talking about the importance of balance later on in the video. Oh, and before I forget, do make sure that you give her suitably big bunny feet. Let's sketch in a simple oblong shape for her arm, making sure to raise the shoulder, as we want it to feel like her head has sunk down below her shoulders as she struggles with the weight and size of this egg. Let's roughen her skirt now as it trails behind her. Curve the line back up as it wraps over her bent leg and then onto the edge of her outstretched leg. Finally, roughen the all-important bunny tail, and then let's get this egg in place. We want the Easter egg to feel not only heavy, but big and cumbersome too. So let's take the bottom of the egg below her hand, as this will give the appearance that she's struggling to get a good solid hold of it. And you'll notice that I've tilted the egg out to the left. This is for a few reasons, which I'll get into later on in the video. Now, with it being Easter, our bunny will of course be wearing a nice Easter bonnet. But before we begin, this next bit may look and sound a tad complicated, but essentially we're just going to be drawing a backwards S shape, or an open-ended figure 8 if that's easier. Ready? Let's do it. After all, it's just one line. Starting at the eye line, we'll stretch the shape out and curve it over and around the top of the head, using the eyes to help us with the correct placement. Now we'll sketch in the top of the brim by connecting the 2 outer edges. We'll arc a line well up above her head for the crown of the bonnet. And what Easter bonnet doesn't have spring flowers decorating it? So simply sketch in some different sized ovals for the flowers, with a smaller oval inside each one to indicate the openings of the flowers. Then we'll just quickly add some little leaves along the bottom. Now we're ready to move on to the tie-down stage, where we'll push and pull our shapes and forms and add some detail as we bring our Easter bunny to life. The head is looking a little wonky, isn't it? So we'll give it a nicer shape by making it a little bit more oval. Let's make sure the eyes are looking good, and then I think I'll just move the nose over to the left a bit and give it a little tilt. The brows are looking fine, but I think we can push her expression by lifting the right side of her mouth a little, and we'll make those bunny teeth a bit crooked just for fun. A tiny adjustment to the left side of her markings before back to work on the bonnet. I'm going to adjust the shape of the brim by lowering the front just a touch and make it slightly longer at the back. We'll add some dimension to the edge of the brim by doubling up the line. Raise the top of the brim slightly and make the crown a little smaller. All these little tweaks may seem a bit finicky, but ultimately they really do refine and add interest to your drawing, which only makes your drawing better in the end. So tweak away. Now what about these ears? I'm liking this screen left ear, but the other one, well, it's just not right. So we'll round off the top and apply a smoother arc down the side. Now, even though I am happy with her body and the stretch of the leg, I still like to draw right through other elements, as you can obviously see, as it really helps me understand and reinforce exactly how she is stretching out under that egg. We'll soften the bottom of her furry foot with a nice curve and adjust the heel a bit. Let's arch her back a tiny bit more by moving the line closer to the shoulder. Her skirt should look more like it's flowing, so we'll make it less stiff by curving the line down to the bottom, then create a much more pronounced wave along the hem as it interacts with the action of her legs. This bent leg is looking good, but I'm not crazy about those pointy toes. Bunny feet are furry and soft, so we'll just fatten the toes with a rounder line. Her arm is pretty shapeless. In fact, it doesn't even look like an arm, yet. And it's just too wide down at the hand. So we'll shave a little off from about the elbow area to the tips of her fingers. And yes, there will be fingers. So along with her Easter bonnet, this bunny would definitely be wearing her Sunday best. So let's give her dress a decorative puffy sleeve, which will help to suggest even more that her head is sinking into her shoulders with the effort of carrying the heavy egg. Let's sketch in the cuff now, taking into account the volume of the arm as we curve the lines around it. And while I'm in the area, I think I'll just make her fluffy tail a bit bigger. Now let's sketch in a belt on her dress, as this will help us correctly place a nice big bow at her side. Start with a knot in the center. Again, it wouldn't be sitting flat, so curve the lines a bit to add dimension. Draw a loop on either side of the knot, about the same shape and size. Add some dimension to the bottom of the loops, as if you could see up inside them. And add a couple of creases where they scrunch up towards the knot. We'll quickly knock in the ends of the bow, making sure to vary the shape and size for some asymmetry, and we'll angle them too, to reflect the direction of the flow of the skirt. We'll quickly indicate the tail markings, knock in her fingers and toes. And suddenly that arm makes much more sense, doesn't it? Let's head back up to the bonnet now. Sketch in the ribbon on the crown. And let's have some fun and add some wavy, frilly material along the top of the brim. But watch carefully how and where I add some small lines through the top and the bottom in order to give the material depth and dimension. I'm sorry if this is not so easy to see right now, but it will make all the sense in the world when we get to the color stage. Let's fix up the shape of the flowers and lightly indicate some petals. Tighten up the leaves and then finally move on to the Easter egg. To begin, we'll draw an ellipse about 2/3 of the way up the egg. This will be where our little Easter egger chick will make his appearance. Let's make the egg a little bit bigger by making it wider at the bottom. We'll draw another ellipse now, but this time on an angle for the top portion of the shell. Make the top of the egg quite a bit bigger, tipping it so it coincides with the angle of the ellipse. The opening created between these two ellipses describes how the top of the egg is being pushed up and over by the little chick breaking out of there. We'll start the chick now by drawing a circle for his head, and yes, drawing right through the other elements again. And just like our bunny, we'll add an eye line and a center line. You know what for. Place the eyes on the eye line and a cute little beak on the center line. We'll make the little egger's head even bigger by giving him big fluffy cheeks. And even though the shell will ultimately hide much of the chick's head, I still like to draw the whole head, as I need to know what the character looks like. And as I've said many times before, and no doubt will again, and very soon I should think, drawing through elements promotes good, solid drawing, even though it can look a little messy. Next, using the ellipses as a guide, we'll draw in the cracked edges of the shell where it's been opened. Be sure to make the breaks different shapes and sizes. Don't just draw a zigzag. And don't worry if the breaks at the top and the bottom of the shell don't look like they would fit together. We'll just use the old, "why, it's just a cartoon" excuse. Now we're ready for the second tie-down stage. But wow, does your drawing look as busy as mine? What a lot of lines. But this is how a well-constructed drawing looks, as you build up the elements one by one, drawing over and through the different elements, even though it all looks slightly chaotic. But when you do work like this, you really begin to understand how each element relates to each other, which, as I've just said, promotes solid drawing with a better end result. Now, if like me, you're taking a much-needed tea break at the moment, perhaps you'd consider hitting the like button and subscribing to my channel. So the second tie-down stage is where we typically make our final adjustments and do a little polishing. I'm quite happy with the progress of this little Easter bunny, so there'll be minimal adjusting and polishing. So watch me now as I work on this stage, but listen too, as I'm going to take this time, as promised earlier, to address the issue of balance, or how to keep your character from falling over. But I'll try not to get too sciencey. After all, this is a how to draw channel. But if you do want to draw well, you really should have a basic understanding of anatomy, and yes, even a little bit of simple physics, such as knowing what the center of gravity is and where it is. So, what is the center of gravity? It's simply the point at which your upper and lower body weight is evenly balanced. Where is the center of gravity? For a woman, it's just below the belly button, and for a man, it's just above the belly button. We'll just have to guesstimate it for a bunny that walks on two legs, however. And internally, the center of gravity is halfway between the lower back and the belly. You can try imagining these points on yourself. But how do you know if your character is balanced? Well, a good indicator is where the head is relative to the feet. Typically, the head is directly over the center of gravity. So if the head stays between or directly over a foot, you know your character is balanced. But the second the head moves beyond the feet, your character is off balance, like what we have here with our little Easter bunny. Her head is beyond her foot, and her weight is back over her heel. So without us adding the weight of that big Easter egg she's carrying to counterbalance her, why, even a feather might easily knock her over. Just imagine how your drawing would look without the egg, and you'll see just how off balance the bunny looks. Even those big feet of hers couldn't save her. Okay, so now we're done with the science lesson. Let's get back to completing the second tie-down stage. We'll clarify the flower petals and add even more petals to the insides of the flowers. And then we'll just add some simple detail to the leaves. Now let's commit to the egg by applying a darker line along the outside. And no, I haven't forgotten to tell you why I've angled the egg to the left. I'll talk about that later in the video. Our little Easter egger is looking nice and cute, so we'll just darken the lines. And by the way, does anyone out there know what actual breed of chicken our little Easter egger is? All I know is that they lay the most beautifully coloured eggs, so do let me know in the comments section, as I'm very curious about them. Let's commit to the cracked shell and finish this second tie-down stage by decorating the egg. I'm going to keep mine simple by adding stripes, again remembering to curve them around the three-dimensional shape of the egg. But if you want to be more adventurous and add your own design, please go right ahead and have fun. Now on to the cleanup stage. With this drawing being simple in design, we're going to apply a fairly bold line with some nice thicks and thins for the exterior line work and a thinner line for the interior line work. The egg decoration frills on the bonnet, and the flower petals will have the thinnest lines due to their delicate nature. Since I want the cracked egg to appear fragile, we'll give it a fairly thin line, except at the bottom where I want to illustrate its heaviness. Now earlier in the video, I said I would tell you why I drew the egg angled to the left. Here's why. Firstly, it makes it look like the bunny might not have a very good grip on the egg, which adds a little story to the drawing. Is she going to drop it? Secondly, it balances the bunny, like I mentioned earlier in the science section. If the egg was angled to the right, the bunny would definitely look like she'd fall over backwards. By tipping it the opposite way, the weight of the egg counters the bunny, and she now looks stable. Thirdly, it adds contrast to the drawing. Virtually everything in the drawing has a right-to-left bias, which would have been boring to look at. But by adding an opposite, we've created an X shape, producing visual balance and making for a more interesting image and a clearer silhouette. And fourthly, and most importantly, it allows us to easily see both the bunny's and the little egger's cute little faces. As usual, you want to be careful through the facial features when cleaning up your drawing, as you want to retain those expressions. And as you're cleaning up, if you ever see something that doesn't look quite right to you, never feel like you're locked in. Don't be afraid to adjust your shapes and forms, like I've done by making the foot bigger through the toes, for instance. Your drawing is constantly a work in progress until you say it isn't. A subtle change to her tail. We'll knock in her markings, fingers and toes. And now we're ready for colour. We'll use a nice warm, but not too bright, orange for the base colour, and a light tan for our bunny's face. Purpley brown eyes, and don't forget to add those highlights. A pink nose and an off-white for her teeth. Never use pure white, as it can produce a glare effect and become a distraction. A very pretty light green for her dress and bonnet, with darker greens for the accents. And now, by adding colour, you can really see how that frill on her bonnet takes shape. Top it all off with some lovely red flowers. Alternating shades of lavender, or any colours you'd like, for the egg. Just make sure that the colours you choose don't distract from the characters' cute faces. A nice soft yellow for the chick, with an orange beak, and pretty blue eyes, again with a couple of highlights to finish. And there you go! You've just drawn the Easter Bunny and her little chick friend. If you enjoyed drawing this bunny, well, guess what? She stars in another of my videos. Why not check it out, if you haven't already? Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and Happy Easter!